Regular meeting number 2 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Please remain standing for the prayer tonight being offered by Father William Metzger.
Let us put ourselves into the presence of our Maker and Creator. Lord God, your spirit of wisdom fills the earth and teaches us your ways. You inspired Christopher Columbus, after whom this great city is named, to seek beyond the limits of the known world to discover a new world. Pope Francis, in his address to the U.S. Congress this past September, said, "Let us treat others with the same passion and compassion with which we want to be treated. Let us seek for others the same possibilities which we seek for ourselves. Let us help others grow as we would like to be helped ourselves. Give us, as citizens of this city, the vision that is born of faith and hope to go with perseverance beyond the boundaries of narrow-mindedness and prejudice and the false limits set before us, not to discover a new world, but a better world through our efforts and the sharing of our gifts and talents. We thank you for the blessings that you have showered upon us in our past, and we ask your continued help. Bless our president, our governor, our mayor, our city council members, especially those newly elected, and all elected officials, that they may continue to serve the common good in the best possible way. Look upon all of us who are gathered here. Keep us all safe and well, and eager to discover each day the many possibilities that lie before us. May we always strive with gentle patience and charity to do your will. May the Lord bless us and keep us. May he shine his face upon us and be gracious to us. May he look upon us with kindness and give us his peace. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Metzger.
You're welcome.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
The first item of business for council this evening is the appointment of a new member of Columbus City Council to fill the vacated seat of Councilmember Eileen Paley. I would ask the city clerk to read the resignation letter from former Councilmember Paley into the record.
Dated Thursday, December 31st, 2015, addressed to then Council President, now Mayor Ginther. It is with tremendous gratitude and appreciation to the citizens of Columbus for choosing me to serve as member of City Council for the last 7 years. I do hereby submit my resignation effective 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 5th, 2016. Now, as I begin a new chapter in my life, I wish my colleagues and our future public officials continued success and good fortune in continuing to make Columbus the best city in which to live, work, and raise a family. Sincerely, Eileen Y. Paley, Member, Columbus City Council.
Thank you, Clerk. At this time, I would like to ask for nominations to fill the vacancy as a member of Columbus City Council. But before proceeding, would council members like to make any comments? Councilmember Tyson. President Pro Tem Tyson.
Thank you, President Klein. I just want to thank all the applicants that came before this body and to share their reason as to why they wanted to be a member of Columbus City Council. But I also want to really thank them for the ideas that they shared with us. And it does take a lot for an individual to put their name forth to be a part of this body. So to each of the individuals that applied, I know many of them in the audience today, just thank you for your commitment already to public service, because most every single one of you have already been involved in some sort of service, and just look forward to the opportunity to continue to work with you in the future. And thank you again for applying.
Seeing none, I would like, before we take nominations, to echo President Pro Tem Tyson's comments. This is never an easy task, selecting someone to fill the vacancy, as evidenced by the many people that we talked to and we interviewed. And I think it's a tremendous testament to the will of our city, given the talent that we have available, and just it's not in my personality, frankly, to disappoint, but only one person, can be the chosen. But I can say that this is a very, very difficult decision, as it is every year, but it was just even more, I think, difficult to wade through the number of talented people that we have and the number of interviews that we did, and just to look how special a place the city of Columbus is to have this diverse talent of committed individuals that are willing to put themselves out as elected officials to be a member of this caucus or in any position that requires to go answer to the citizenry on the job that you're doing. So I applaud all those that put themselves forward in making the task difficult for us. So at this time, are there any nominations to fill the vacancy of Councilmember Paley?
President Klein, I would like to nominate Mitchell J. Brown to fill the vacant seat left open by Councilmember Eileen Paley.
There's a motion for council from Councilmember Tyson for Mitchell J. Brown. Is there a second? I'm sorry, from Councilmember Hardin. Is there a second? Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Congratulations to future Councilmember Brown. Is he in the audience? Okay, he's not here. There will be a future swearing-in date to be determined for Mitchell J. Brown that will be announced separately by the clerk. The next order of business I would like to introduce is Ordinance 0143-2016, which is in rules and reference. On the back, it's committee assignments. If you go to the back of the agenda, on page 11. It's 143-2016 to amend Chapter 111 of the Columbus City Codes as it relates to the standing committees of council and to declare an emergency. I'd move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We will now ask the clerk to read the new committee assignments into the record.
Administration Committee Chair, Councilmember Brown. Members Hardin, Page, President Klein. Economic Development Committee Chair, Ms. Brown. Members Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein. Education Committee Chair, Ms. Brown. Members Page, Tyson, President Klein. Environment Committee Chair, Ms. Brown. Committee members Tyson, Hardin, Council President Klein. Finance Committee Chair, Councilmember Tyson. Members Hardin, Brown, President Klein. Health and Human Services Committee Chair Tyson. Committee members Brown, Page, President Klein. Public Safety Committee Chair, Councilmember Hardin. Members Page, Stenziano, President Klein. Judiciary and Court Administration Committee Chair, Mr. Stenziano. Members Page, Brown, President Klein. Public Service and Transportation Committee Chair, Mr. Hardin. Members Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein. Public Utilities Committee Chair, Mr. Stenziano. Members Hardin, Brown, President Klein. Recreation and Parks Committee Chair, Ms. Page. Members Tyson, Stenziano, President Klein. Rules and Reference Committee Chair, President Klein. Members Hardin, Page, Stenziano. Small and Minority Business Development Committee, Chair Mr. Hardin, members Brown, Tyson, President Klein. Technology Committee, Chair Mr. Stenziano, members Hardin, Brown, President Klein. Veterans Affairs Committee, Chair Mr. Hardin, members Tyson, Stenziano, President Klein. Workforce Development Committee, Chair Ms. Tyson, committee members Brown, Hardin, President Klein. Housing Committee, Ms. Page, Chair, members Brown, Stenziano, Tyson. Zoning Committee, Councilmember Page chairs that committee. All members serve on the committee.
Thank you, Clerk, and please note for the record that committee assignments will be reissued when newly appointed Councilmember Brown is seated on January 25th. This week's communications received by the City Clerk's Office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Are there any resolutions by council members? Councilmember Brown.
Yes, I have an announcement about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration that I'd like Deputy Director Johnson of the Community Relations Commission to brief us on.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown and President Klein. We will be celebrating the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. activities this weekend. We're going to start on Saturday, January 16th with the MLK Oratorical Contest that is going to be held at the King Arts Complex beginning at noon. On Monday, January the 18th, we will kick off the day with a march that will be started at 4:45. We'll gather at 4 o'clock for activities prior to, and then the march will conclude over at the Lincoln Theater, where we will have a program featuring Dr. Mary Frances Berry. She is a former chairperson of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. She's an author, educator, and historian. She will be our keynote speaker for the event on Monday evening. So we invite you all to come out and enjoy the activities that we have planned.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director Johnson, and thank you for the hard work in putting that together.
Councilmember Hardin.
Thank you, President Klein. I just have a quick announcement. The City of Columbus and the State of Ohio are partnering to help minority-owned businesses as part of the continuing effort to increase the number of businesses certified through their respective minority business enterprise programs. The City of Columbus and the State of Ohio have entered into a reciprocal agreement simplifying the process for minority-owned businesses to obtain government contracts. Under the reciprocal agreement, businesses certified into the State of Ohio's Minority Business Enterprise Program are eligible for expedited certification to the city's Minority Business Enterprise Certification and Verification Program. Similarly, those minority-owned businesses certified by the Mayor's Office of Equal Business Opportunity may be eligible for expedited certification with this state. Director, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to this announcement.
Councilman Hardin, President Klein. Again, it should increase the overall numbers, the number of people that are enrolled in our certification, and it'll make it easier to get state certified. So it's just a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Klein.
Thank you, Councilmember Hardin. Councilmember Page. Councilmember Stenziano.
Not at this time, Mr. President.
President Pro Tem Tyson.
Yes, President Klein, I have a few announcements. The first is regarding the budget process. Thursday, January the 28th at 5 p.m., we will have our public hearing on the budget. So at 5 p.m., if you're in the viewing or listening audience and you want to make any comments on the Mayor's 2016 budget, please come to Columbus City Council at 5 p.m. on Thursday the 28th. And then on Monday the 1st, we will read the budget ordinance into the agenda, and hopefully we'll have, well, the goal was to have passage on the budget on Monday, February the 8th. Also, I just wanted to mention that for those currently looking for employment or those who know someone who is job hunting, the Columbus Career Fair will be held on January the 20th from 11 o'clock until 2 p.m. at the Hyatt Regency Columbus at 350 North High Street. Bring your resumes to hand out and dress for success. Many companies will be present, and there will be opportunities to interview for several positions during the course of the day. And also on Thursday, January 21st, the Mentoring Center of Central Ohio will host a mentoring celebration celebrating 15 years of milestones. It will be held at the Ohio State House atrium, which is 1 Capitol Square, and there will be a reception at 5:15 to 6, and the program will begin from 6 to 7:30. It's really a great opportunity to see the organizations that are really working with young people in our community, and so I hope that it's Mentoring Month also in January, that you'll be able to go out and go to this event on the 21st of January. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. Are there any comments from our elected officials or members of the administration? Auditor Dorian? City Attorney? I don't see Judge Barrows there. Any members of the administration like to make any comments? Okay, seeing none. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? I see none. May we now have a motion to waive second reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Second, clerk call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinance 48-2016. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 2975-2015, 3059, 3071, 3101, and 3138-2015.
The following ordinances will appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read in the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolutions of expression 8X, 9X, 10, 11, 12, 13, X-2016. Environment Committee, Ordinance 47-2016. Administration Committee, Ordinances 3115, 3117, 3124, 3125, 3126, 3127-2015. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 3144, 3158, 3201, 3211-2015. Resolution 1X-2016 and 2X-2016. Ordinances 10, 27, and 28-2016. Housing Committee, Ordinances 5, 6, 9, and 23-2016. Public Utilities Committee, Resolution 274X-2015, 2779, 2782, 2916, 3033, 3040, 3075, and 3086-2015. Judiciary and Court Administration Committee, Ordinances 3159, 3164, and 3165-2015.
Thank you, Clerk. We do have one speaker for the consent agenda, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome back to council. Happy New Year. I believe you're speaking on 9-2016. Looks like you're speaking against. You have 3 minutes. If you just could say your name for the record and your address.
Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins, the chairman of solely vacant and abandoned property in North Linden there. Solely against this is because, I just want to know how long that this property had been in the land bank and what will it go to be used for. I just don't want to see any more rental property. What needs to happen now is to more home ownership of these properties through the land bank. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Chair Page, if it's okay with you, kick it to Director Shoney. Director Shoney, do you have any comments or commentary about 9-2016?
Thank you, Mr. President, Chairman Page. I don't have the information on 9-2016 right now, but we'll follow up with Mr. Wilkins and make sure that we let council know.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions about the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion for approval of all these items designated as consent actions? Is there a second? Clerk call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We will now proceed with the second reading of 30-day tabled and emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. President Pro Tem Tyson chairs that committee. There is no legislation and finance. Oh, it's the Administration Committee tonight. And that will be chaired by Councilmember Brown.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you,
and welcome
President
to council.
Klein. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Tonight in the Administration Committee, we have Ordinance 3114-2015 to make appropriations for the 12 months ending January 31st, 2017 for the funding of the city employee insurance programs and to declare an emergency. Any questions from my colleagues? Hearing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We also have Ordinance 3116-2015 to authorize the Human Resources Director to modify and extend the contract with United Healthcare Insurance Company and to provide all eligible employees medical insurance coverage from February 1st, 2016 through January 31st, 2017, and to authorize the expenditure of $123,160,769 from the Employee Benefits Fund, or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract, and to declare an emergency. Any questions from my colleagues? Hearing none, I move for passage. We have Ordinance 3118. Oh, I'm sorry.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Great. Now we have Ordinance 3118-2015 to authorize the Human Resources Director to modify and extend the contract with Catamaran to provide all eligible employees prescription drug insurance coverage from February 1st, 2016 through January 31st, 2017, and to authorize the expenditure of $40,423,812 from the Employee Benefits Fund, or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract, and to declare an emergency. Any questions? Hearing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We have Ordinance 3119-2015 to authorize the Human Resources Director to modify and extend the contract with Delta Dental to provide all eligible employees dental insurance coverage from February 1st, 2016 through January 31st, 2017, to authorize the expenditure of $8,037,070 from the Employee Benefits Fund, or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We also have Ordinance number 3121-2015 to authorize the Human Resources Director to modify and extend the contract with Vision Service Plan to provide all eligible employees vision plan administration from February 1st, 2016 through January 31st, 2017, to authorize the expenditure of $1,017,525 from the Employee Benefits Fund, or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We also have Ordinance number 3122-2015 to authorize the Human Resources Director to modify and extend the contract with Dearborn National to provide all eligible employees short-term disability insurance coverage from February 1st, 2016 through January 31st, 2017, and to authorize the expenditure of $3,182,286 from the Employee Benefits Fund, or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
We have Ordinance number 3123-2015 to authorize the Human Resources Director to modify and extend the contract with Consumers Life Insurance Company to provide all eligible employees life insurance coverage from February 1st, 2016 through January 31st, 2017, and to authorize the expenditure of $1.2 million from the Employee Benefits Fund, or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Legislation passed.
And that is all we have in the Administration Committee. President Klein.
Thank you, Chairperson Brown. The next committee is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. chaired by Councilmember Harden. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. This evening in Public Service and Transportation, we have 3166-2015 to appropriate $3,595,000 from the unappropriated balance of the Municipal Motor Vehicle License Tax Fund for anticipated 2016 operating expenditures for the Department of Public Service, Division of Infrastructure Management and Traffic Management, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance is the annual appropriation of the Municipal Motor Vehicle License Tax for 2016 so that the Department of Public Service may purchase items like salt, paint, gravel, concrete, chemicals, signs and signals, and other materials for the Division of Infrastructure Management and Traffic Management. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinciano, Tyson, President Klein.
Next, we have 0064-2016 to authorize the Director of Public Service to apply for the U.S. Department of Transportation Smart City Challenge Grant from the United States Department of Transportation to authorize execution of grant agreements providing for the acceptance and administration of said grant award on behalf of the City of Columbus Department of Public Service, and to authorize the expenditure of any awarded funds and the refund of any unused funds, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Department of Public Service to coordinate our efforts as Columbus seeks to compete for the U.S. Department of Transportation Smart Cities Challenge Grant. The Smart City Challenge winner will be awarded $40 million from the federal government and $10 million from Paul G. Allen's Vulcan, Inc. to implement bold, data-driven ideas to make transportation safer, easier, and more reliable. So we are working with different folks around the city to put together a strong application. Director Gallagher, I don't know if you wanted to add any comments about our application.
Thank you, President Klein, Chair Harden. I just want to say thank you to all the other departments that are helping us apply for this. We're working with development, with technology. I'm sure safety, health will also be involved. It's going to be a all hands on deck to apply. The applications are due the first round in February. Then they narrow it down to the top 5 cities. Those cities will get $100,000. And then we'll go forward with the application and should know hopefully May timeframe. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. The U.S. Department of Transportation is looking for a mid-sized city with a population between 200,000 and 850,000. More than 50% of this city's population is in its inner core. An established public transportation system, an environment that is conducive to demonstrating proposal strategies and leadership and capacity. So we believe that we look pretty good for something like this. So again, I appreciate the hard work that Public Service is doing in leading this effort and working with our community partners to put forth our application. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinciano, Tyson, President Klein.
Legislation passed.
That is all we have in Public Service this evening. Thank you, President Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next committee is the Public Utilities Committee, chaired by Councilmember Stenziano. Chairman Stenziano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Tonight in Public Utilities Committee, we start with Ordinance 2862-2015. To authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a professional engineering services agreement with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated for the Near North and East Large Diameter Assessment Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $1,099,389.44 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,099,389.44 from the Sanitary Sewers General Obligation Bond Fund, and to amend the 2015 capital improvement budget. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinciano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
Next is Ordinance Ordinance 2875-2015 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a professional engineering services agreement with American Structure Point for the Center Large Diameter Condition Assessment Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $1,002,541.80 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,002,541.80 from the Sanitary Sewerage General Obligation Bond Fund, and to amend the 2015 capital improvement budget. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
Next is ordinance 2998-2015 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to pay joint use of poles rental fees to Ohio Power Company, DBA AEP, in accordance with the terms of an existing agreement, and to modify said agreement to authorize the expenditure not exceeding $155,000 from the Electricity Operating Fund, to consent to the assignment of the agreement for joint use of poles by Columbus Southern Power to Ohio Power Company, and to declare an emergency. Mr. President, first I move to amend as submitted by the clerk.
Is there a second? Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
For the members of council, this amendment is essentially technical in nature and did not cause any questions or concerns on my end. I don't know if you have any questions for the director. If I see there are no questions, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
Next is ordinance 3058-2015 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter a contract with Interstate Truckway Incorporated, DBA Interstate Utility Trailer, for the purchase of a framed aluminum half-round trailer for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, to authorize the expenditure of $857.14 from the Sewer Operating Fund, to waive competitive bidding provisions of City Code Chapter 329, and to declare an emergency. Director Davies, can you give us an explanation on the waiver of competitive bidding and the circumstances surrounding the request for an emergency?
Yes, Chairman Stinziano, President Klein, members of council, we're requesting a bid waiver. This was the only company to submit for this bid. They only submitted a price guarantee quote for 30 days. We require 180 days that they guarantee their pricing. We went back to the vendor and asked that they hold the pricing for 180 days. They agreed to do so, so therefore we are requesting that we move forward with the bid waiver. We are also requesting the emergency so that we can get this done in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
No more in utilities, President Klein, but appropriate, I'd like to move to the Judiciary and Court Administration Committee, if that's
Please.
okay.
Please.
In Judiciary and Court Administration, tonight we have Ordinance 3031-2015 to authorize and direct the City Attorney to settle the claim of Laura A. Denny in the matter of the estate of David Denny, to authorize the expenditure of $30,000 from the Recreation and Parks Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. City Attorney Pfeiffer, can you give us the details of the settlement?
Chair Stinziano, President Klein, and members of City Council, city employees under their contracts have life insurance policies. The life insurance policy amount is usually related to the salary the person gets. Upon leaving city employment, you are permitted within 31 days of leaving to convert that policy to another life insurance policy for which you'll pay the premium. In fact, tonight, under Councilmember Brown's authorization, you passed two ordinances that in fact continue the policy of paying for and authorizing life insurance policies for employees. This is a situation where an employee named David Denny, an employee of the Recreation Parks Department, left employment in December of 2014. He died in April of 2015, and his widow then alleged afterwards that they were unaware that this employee could convert that policy to a life insurance policy that he would pay for. And the widow said even further, you knew that my husband was a very sick person, and you had an obligation upon exiting employment to inform him of his rights to acquire this. Now, no lawsuit was filed, but in discussions with this, we took a look at this issue, we conferred with the Department of Recreation and Parks, and we thought that based upon what a jury might do in this case, it might favor the fact that the widow was entitled to know that her husband should have had that life insurance policy. So I think as a result of this, I believe that the City of Columbus will now have a uniform policy across the board to assure that upon exit interview, the person is informed of the rights that they have, especially as to life insurance. So we recommend this settlement. We have dealt with Director Collins and his department. $30,000 is less than what the widow was asking for, but all parties think this is fair. And as a result of this, the city's policies upon exit interviews will change. We'd encourage the adoption of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for the details and explanation. If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move for passage of the legislation.
Second.
There's a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
President Klein, that is all I have in committees.
All right, thank you, Chair Stenziano. There is one other piece in Rules and Reference. I chair that committee, so we'll move to Rules and Reference Legislation 3009-2015 to amend and repeal various sections of the Columbus City Code, Chapters 585, 588, 590, and to clarify established licensing requirements and regulations for peer-to-peer transportation network companies and drivers operating as vehicles for hire in Columbus. This piece of legislation originated a year ago, approximately, when I chaired public safety. At the time, there were two transportation network companies. One was Uber, one was Lyft. Columbus was on the forefront of municipal regulation and how to regulate those companies. And over the past year, many cities, many states have moved to a model to which, in my opinion, made the Columbus model overly regulatory and overly burdensome. This is the sharing economy. There are certainly things that are tough to regulate, but it's been a cause for concern to me as the part of the pledge that we made a year ago in passing this legislation that we would revisit it within a year to determine what the status of various cities and states were as it relates to Columbus. In the meantime, a new ordinance was drafted in December. It was on the agenda, and in the interim, the state of Ohio passed legislation that arguably, that some may argue, that preempts or supersedes the Columbus ordinance. I'm moving forward with this legislation and going to request that council remove it from the table and move for passage for a couple of different reasons. The first is that in the event that any municipality would sue, and it would mean that, and be victorious, it would mean that it would revert back to each municipality to govern its own peer-to-peer company. Therefore, the Columbus regulation would then be in effect. It is of my opinion that in order for Columbus to be competitive and have the appropriate legislation, the current legislation as being amended and proposed tonight and passed is the appropriate legislation that should govern if any sort of legal action is brought against the state of Ohio's legislation, and that is successful. The second is, from a regulatory scheme, I think it's important for Columbus to have the least amount of appropriate regulation as possible. And I found that over the past year, both municipalities and states across the country have moved to a model that I think governs the peer-to-peer companies in an effective manner, and that Columbus has found itself on an island that's overly burdensome. And for a city like Columbus that prides itself on a regulatory scheme that's appropriate and effective, this new legislation sends the signal that we are open for business and looking to regulate things with the least restrictive means to maximize the efforts of the regulation being proposed. The third is the state of Ohio legislation does not start for a few more months. So there will be a small window of overlap where this legislation will be the governing model for the city, although albeit a brief time window. The legislation being proposed is going to be amended tonight if passed to reflect a couple clerical errors as well as an audit procedure and stiffer civil penalties should the peer-to-peer company not provide audit procedures requested or demanded by the Department of Public Safety. I'd like to recognize Director Speaks as a partner in this, someone that we've worked now for the past 12 to 14 months on this particular piece of legislation. Thank you for your guidance and your leadership on this particular legislation. I know it's been arduous in trying to deal with the ever-changing landscape, so thank you, Director Speaks. And I'd also like to recognize, I see Morgan Kaufman, who's the proprietor of Yellow Cab, who's, although not part of the peer-to-peer network at this time, is a a group of individuals that have been willing partners and provided us tremendous insight from the CAB standpoint of how this legislation affects the industry. And I thank you for the work that you've done with us, as well as everyone else from the CAB industry who may be in the audiences I simply do not see. So first, I'd like to remove from the table by voice vote. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson.
Yes.
President Klein.
Yes. Next, I'd like to request as amended to the clerk by voice vote. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
Yes. And then I'd like to offer any comments to my colleagues if they wish to have any. I move for passage of the same. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson.
Yes.
President Klein.
Yes, legislation passed. Any other business coming before council tonight? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
We have a couple non-agenda speakers, which we'll take momentarily and reconvene for zoning at 6:30. Adjourned. Regular meeting number 3 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
Are there any communications or reports received by the city clerk?
No, there are not.
Are there any first readings of 30-day legislation?
No, there are not.
We will now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Page chairs that committee. All members serve on that committee. Chairperson Page, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents and 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side, and we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against any council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Our first variance this evening is 0019-2016 to rezone 5440 Morse Road, being 15.62 acres located at the northeast corner of Morse Road and Preserve Crossing Boulevard, from our rural and PUD 8 Planned Unit Development Districts to PUD Planned Unit Development District, rezoning number Z15-033. The applicant is Lifestyle Communities Limited, care of Michael T. Shannon, attorney, 500 South Front Street, Suite 1200, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is a 124-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northland Community Council recommended approval, 18-0. I do not believe we have any speaker slips on this variance. I would first like to motion that we request to amend this to an emergency.
Second.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
Thank you very much.
Variance 24-2016 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3355.03 C3 permitted uses of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 2165 Morse Road in the 43229 zip code to permit furniture sales in the C3 commercial district, Council Variance CV 15-67. The applicant is Furniture Blank, care of David Hodge, attorney, 8000 Walton Parkway, Suite 260, New Albany, Ohio, 43054. The proposed use is a furniture sales store. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northland Community Council recommended approval, 16-1. I do not believe we have any speakers on this variance. I would first like to motion to waive second reading.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown. Hardin. Page. Stinziano. Tyson. President Klein.
Variance 44-2016 to rezone 2787 Climb Road, 43223, being 2.18 acres located at the southwest corner of Climb Road and Heinzerling Drive from I institutional and R1 residential districts to CPD, Commercial Plan Development District, rezoning application Z15-045. The applicant is the Heiserling Foundation, care of Catherine Cunningham, attorney, 65 East State Street, Suite 1800, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is an intermediate residential care facility. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Greater Hilltop Area Commission recommended approval 11-0. We do not have any speaker slips on this variance. I would like to motion to waive second reading.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Variance 45-2016 to rezone 920 North Wagner Road, 43004, being 4.18 acres located at the southeast corner of North Wagner Road and Kennedy Road, from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District, Z15-039. The applicant is TH Midwest Incorporated, care of Christopher A. Reinhardt, 300 East Broad Street, Suite 450, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is a retail and sales development. The City's Department's recommendation is approval. The Far East Area Commission recommended approval 8-0. We do not have any speaker slips on this variance, and I would first like to move to waive second reading.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Cinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Variance 3088-2015 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3365.01 M1 Manufacturing District, 3389.04 Crematory, 3365.21 Height and Area Regulations, 3365.35 Storage, 3312.39 Striping and Marking, 3312.41 Access and Circulation, 3312.43 Required Surface for Parking, and 3312.45 Will Stop Devices of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 888 Frank Road, 43223, to expand an existing pet crematory in the M1 Manufacturing District and to repeal ordinance number 1606-96 passed July 22nd, 1996. It's Council Variance 15-060. The applicant is 800 Frank Road, LLC, care of Laura McGregor Comic, attorney, 300 East Broad Street, Suite 450, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. The proposed use is the expansion of a pet crematory. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Southwest Area Commission recommendation is approval 8-1. I do believe that we have some speaker slips, and I would like to first ask for staff presentation.
Good evening. The site is currently developed with an animal crematory zoned in the M1 Manufacturing District as permitted by Ordinance 1606-96, passed July 22, 1996, and Special Permit SP 96-043. Both of these actions restricted the crematory to no more than 3,000 square feet of gross floor area with a building height limitation of 28 feet. The requested variance will eliminate these limitations to allow for an expanded facility. A variance is required because a crematory is a special permit use that must be located in the C3 or C4 commercial districts or in the M manufacturing district. The request includes variances to conform the existing gravel parking lot and to reduce the required side and rear storage setbacks. The use is consistent with the land use recommendations of the Southwest Area Plan, which recommends light industrial uses. The proposed expansion of operations is not expected to have a detrimental impact upon this area, which is primarily industrial in nature. A new special permit will also be required by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and the BZA does have the authority to impose specific conditions and requirements regarding the proposed use to safeguard the public safety and welfare. Therefore, our staff recommendation is for approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
I have one question for you, Ms. Pine. So with them needing a special permit, they will have to go before the BZA, and the community will have the opportunity to speak specifically about the activity that's going on at the property.
That is correct. There will be notices mailed for that meeting to all property owners within 125 feet and the area commission, and they would have the opportunity to speak at the meeting, which is held up at our department.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I would now like to ask the applicant and attorney, Laura Komek, to speak.
Good evening, President Klein, members of City Council. Nice to be before you this evening. This project, I think the staff's report covers the issues that are presented this evening. This crematorium is in existence now and has been since 1996. It's an excellent and clean operation. It complies with the city's Southwest Area Plan to retain manufacturing at this site and in this corridor generally. The only points that I would make to supplement Shannon's report is side and rear yard setbacks in this context, and if you look at the exhibit that's before you, are really a fiction. There's common ownership among the entire 300 acres there, and where we would expand the current facility would come up against that side yard, which is our own private driveway. So there are no adverse effects to adjacent neighbors because we are the adjacent neighbors. And so in that regard, what we're asking for are really technical items. The special permit was also granted back in 1996 for this operation. This will allow us to expand and create jobs, 5 to 7 jobs, within a corridor that's already well-defined manufacturing. So I'd be pleased to take any questions that you have on this. And as you know, I went to the Southwest Area Commission, and that was a 7-to-1 in favor recommendation of approval.
Are there any questions for Attorney Komek? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one speaker against this variance. I would like to ask Mr. Don Parsons to come up to the podium, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Don Parsons. I live at 1253 Marsdale Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. I'm a citizen. I've come down here tonight to represent myself as a citizen of the city of Columbus. I also am a Southwest Area Commissioner. I'm the one that voted against this. Now, basically, when I went to the residents of the Southwest Area Commission and I knocked on 100 doors and talked to the people, I feel that's being representative to go and make our city a better place to live. I talked to the people. The people told me when I was talking to them, they already had pollution concerns about the pollution in the neighborhood already, and they didn't want not one more thing, even a little bit more pollution, because some of the people, there was one lady that told me she woke up like 2:30 in the morning, couldn't breathe because of the pollution in the area, and I'm concerned about that. And you know, I'm real passionate about the quality of life of the city of Columbus. Just like the former mayor, Michael B. Coleman, said, he was tired of seeing good things leave Columbus. Well, we have a problem. Good things are leaving Columbus. And then we get things that like nobody wants to be next to. I don't know who wants to be next to a pet crematory that is expanded to where they can burn horses. Horses are large animals, and you just don't vaporize them instantly. There's going to be some pollution from a large 2,000-pound animal. And the stench and the smell. And the Frank Road corridor from east to west is the biggest corridor south of Broad Street in the city of Columbus. And we would love to see good things move in there, like some restaurants, some good businesses that could employ like 500 and 600 people, you know, good development for the city of Columbus. And this business is not that kind of business. I think this business is the kind that runs good businesses out. There's another problem that I have noticed, that the chair of the Southwest Area Commission, Stephanie Cole, is not qualified to sign off on these papers. she's the chair, and she has to put her signature on there. According to the bylaws, what I've read, disqualifications, members shall maintain their residence, property, or business in the commission area from which they were elected or appointed, period. She didn't. She moved to a address outside the area commission area, which, as ethics are, we want to keep good ethics. We don't want anything illegal happening. I feel that since she moved out of the area from where she was appointed in the city of Columbus, right there, she's disqualified. She's signing off on these things, and being disqualified to do that and be frauding her way is not a good thing. With my highest respect, I'm asking the city council, please, to table this so we can work it out with city officials to try to figure out what's going on with this. And thank you very much. I'm asking for the table.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Parsons? Again, thank you. Are there any representatives here from the Southwest Area Commission? Seeing none, I would like to ask Attorney Komek to have the respond.
Thank you, President Klein, members of council. So I don't know anything about that, about the process or the procedural anomalies that might exist in the Southwest Area Commission. I know that we followed the city's prescribed process for meeting with the neighbors, and we actually met with the adjacent neighbors and talked about a few issues related to our fence and those kind of things. So I don't know anything about it except to say that that vote was 7-1 in favor. Disqualification of Ms. Coe's vote would mean 6-1. More substantively, though, about the pollution and those kind of things, back in 1996, when this project was originally approved, there were some discussions about the height of stacks, exhaust stacks and that kind of thing. I want you to know that there are two interesting things about our project today. One, our new project is subject to all new EPA regulations regarding air pollution and regarding filters and new construction standards. So that's number one. Number two, we already have the permit for that, the air permit from the EPA. So we're meeting all of the latest standards with regard to safety and those kinds of things. You wouldn't even know this was a pet cremation facility if you drove by it, in terms of the nature of the operation being clean. And it's actually a big business where folks would like to keep the remains of their animals, so we're just really meeting a market need and demand here. So any questions? I'd be pleased to answer anything.
Ms. Comek, what's the proximity to the closest residential housing? So how close is the
right? So this lot
house?
has got to be easily 1,000 feet. With this exact location, is easily got to be 1,000 feet from the closest residential neighbors. As part of another project that we have pending for the entire 300-acre site, we have met with a variety of those neighbors adjacent to the property. Just talked about the fencing, some additional screening, and those kinds of things. They relate to our BZA application for a higher fence around the perimeter.
President Pro Tem Tyson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Page. I know you said that it would be 6-1 if Ms. Stephanie Coe if her vote was not valid. I just have a question, just maybe it's to either city attorney or to Chairperson Page, just in regards to when an individual signs a document and they have moved out of the district, what happens in that situation?
Councilmember Tyson, members of council, when you look at the qualifications of an area commissioner, as I understand the facts to be in this case, Ms. Coe owns property in the area commission area, and she is a citizen of Columbus, which keeps her in a qualified status. Now, if someone wants to say that she couldn't sign the paperwork that came forward, if there is an error in that, it's simply an error that's only advisory and doesn't count. In other words, the area commission's function is to advise council. Even if they make a mistake, council can decide in its own consideration based on the facts before it to approve something or disapprove something. But the issue raised about whether Ms. Coe is qualified, she is qualified based upon the requirements of membership.
Thank you, City Attorney Pfeiffer.
Thank you.
Attorney Comic, I have another question. You said that the crematory has gotten the air permit from the EPA. Could you talk briefly about like what that means and what they're, I guess, permitted to do?
So every, in particular manufacturing, but every business that has emissions of one sort or another gets an air permit. Really, that's just construction standards, and I'm going to use layman's terms, filtering, so that there's parts per million that's released into the air, that kind of thing. This site has never had an NOV, which would be a notice of violation, since its inception since 1996. Again, we'll be meeting the newest construction standards and air pollution quality standards set by the EPA, which actually has jurisdiction over those issues.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for Attorney Comic?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any additional comments or questions for staff? Seeing none, I would like to motion that we waive second reading.
Brown, Harden, Page, Zinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
And I move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Zinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you, President Klein. I have nothing further in zoning this evening.
Thank you, Chairperson Page. For seeing nothing else coming before the Zoning Committee, can I get a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Zinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We are adjourned.